Everybody, this is Hannah from Mother Goose's Makery, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make the Secrets and Keepsakes gift box die set from Tonic Studios. It's a safe. It's a safe with a working locking mechanism. You can put a slot in the top to make it a money box. It has a proper little vault door. It's adorable and cool and fun. Well done, Toby. Fantastic die set. So let's have a look at it. So inside, I'm not going to show you the inside because that's got the instructions in it. This big piece is your four sides. Then you've got the squares that make your lids and the apertures to make the doors. The circles make the mechanism. Those long bits make the sides around the mechanism. The slit is important in one of them for the actual locking mechanism to feed through. That big triangle, it makes for the base. You put four of those together into one. We have a door latch and then some decorative bits and bits that make the little dial handle. So here are all the bits I've cut out, because you don't need to see me die cut them. We've got the sides, the bits that go round the door. These bits make the base. These are four I've already stuck together. These make the handle for the door. We have this little decagon, which is the handle. The bit with the arrow is the actual lock. The bits in the middle, the little circles make the axle, and these squares just make up the front and back of the door and the roof. So, the very first step is you take one of your sides and you're going to want to cut an aperture in it of the large square. So in order to make sure that you get that aperture in the correct place, you first lay the side die on it, because that will provide a frame, and then you place your large die directly inside of that, and that will make sure that your square is perfectly centred. So we're just going to tape that large square die down and run it through our die cutting machine. Oh, and don't forget to remove the large side die. That's literally just there for placement. We're not running that back through the machine. So now we have one side with a square cut out. The other three sides remain fully intact. And what we're going to want to do with the square we've just cut out is, if you're making a money box, pop a slit in it. And that is the tiny little rectangle die that is next to your side of the door pieces. So we're just going to stick that in the centre of this square and run that through the machine. What I'm going to do, I've done all the main die cutting, but there's little extra bits you need to do, so I'm going to do all of that extra die cutting first, so that I can put my machine away, and then we can just get on with all the gluing. So here's your lid piece with the slit in it. So now we're going to be working on our door. And in order to make the mechanism work, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to die cut a hole inside both a small square and a large square. And it's the smallest of the circles that we're cutting. So what we do on our square pieces, we line up the Q-shaped one and then the circular dies inside. Like we did with the side die, we're just doing this for alignment purposes. We're going to stick down the centre small die, remove all the others, and just cut the smallest circle out of both one of the small squares and one of the large squares. Although the original die cuts I showed you were all black, I went rogue and decided I wanted a pink contrasting door, because it goes with the whole colour scheme thing. And I've also cut out some pink squares to be mats and layers for the side. And then I also have cut out some striped paper to go on top of the pink card. But you'll see that all later. So as the big pink square is going to be our door and we want it to look safe-like, there is, inside the Q-shaped die, there is a round die with no cutting edges on it, but it has little notches all the way around it. And that's going to be an embossing die that we can use on this door, and it will make the door look like a safe door with all the little markings around the outside. So I have attached that to the pink square with the circle cut out, and then I've run it through my die machine with my embossing mat in order to get a really good impression. So that should be all the extra die cutting done, so time to do some sticking. First of all, we are going to take our 4 sides and we are going to glue them to the large square that has the slit cut in it, which is going to be our roof, as it were. What you're going to want to do is when you glue it, you want to glue so the square goes up to the first line where the ribbing is. So you can see there's a load of ribbed lines on the side pieces, and you just want to glue the square up to the first of those, and you'll see that it actually is the same width. So now we're going to make the dial for the door. So I've already attached 4 of these pieces together. You just glue the tiny little flap on the side and then stick that to the next one like a centipede of the human variety. So you have your flaps on either side. And then we're just going to fold down the flaps on either side, and they will glue to the 2 decagons that we cut out. So you can see now I'm just applying glue around the decagon, and then I'm just going to attach each of the little flaps so that the outer edge is flush with the edges of the decagon. And then once one side is done, apply glue to all the flaps on the other side, and we can just stick the other decagon on top. Now, to make up the base, I've already made one of them because we originally had 8 triangles to start with. These are the final 4. So you just apply glue to the extra curved flap on the side and then stick that to its neighbour. So the longest edge of the triangle, the hypotenuse, is the outside of the square. So all the hypotenuse are on the outside, and you just have the curved flaps attaching to the next one. Just be careful when you're putting the 4th one in. You need to have put glue on the 3rd one and put glue on the 4th one, so that when you insert it, it's all ready to stick to its neighbour. So now it's time to construct our door. And the door has this super clever swivelling mechanism that allows it to actually lock shut and open. So we start off with the small square that we cut a circle in. And what we're going to do is next to it, we are going to glue the piece with the slit cut in it. And the slit is going to want to go on the edge closest to the square with the circle. So the slit is offset and it's closest to the circle. If you don't do that, the whole thing isn't going to work. So then we're going to glue on the other 3 sides. So each time you have the tab going in the same direction, so always to your left. On the diagram, on the instructions, I feel like the tab is on the other side, and I got really confused for a while. So make sure your tabs are always on the left of the piece you're gluing on. Ignore the instructions on that bit. I also went a tiny bit rogue here because I was supposed to glue the other small square to the other side of the slitted flap. and I did not. I constructed the sides so it made like a little box first. I don't really think it makes much difference either way, because you can just glue the other side on afterwards. However, and this point is very important, when you stick the large piece on, make sure you stick the hinge to it first. I did not. I then had to peel the card back, and my glue is very strong and it was annoying. So just make sure that you stick the hinge to the large piece first before you stick it to the front of the little box you made. And also make sure that on the debossed image that the tiny little arrow is on the same side as the slit. Also an important fact. So now we're going to make the turning mechanism. So firstly, we're going to need an axle. So you take your 3 small circles and glue them together. And you're going to want to glue 1 large circle on one side of this little stack. Then we're going to pop said stack with the small holes going through the hole in our door, so that the large circle is a stopper on the back. And then we're going to apply glue to the top little circle and apply the other large circle to the front of the door. So you're making an Oreo. The large circles are the cookies and the small circles are the cream filling. And just make sure the little arrow on the outer large circle aligns with the one on the dial on the pink piece. That was a glorious little close-up picture for you, because you can't really see from the distance I am filming. Then I just give it a cheeky little swivel to make sure that none of my glue is seeped out on the side and actually stuck the mechanism, because otherwise this isn't going to work. So then we take the 2 Q-shaped pieces, apply glue to one, stick it to the other, and then we're just going to stick it to the large circle in the middle. And what you're going to want is the little tail of the Q to be in one of the corners nearest to the slit, because that will make sure that when your 2 arrows are aligned on the outside, that your dial is in the unlocked position. So it's like you've cracked the code to your safe. And then when you turn it away from that, then you will be locking the mechanism. Okay? And then this is when you would stick the other small square to the back of the mechanism to enclose your working. So now I think we've pretty much made all the constituent parts, and we can glue, it's just the big glue together at the end. So we're going to start off with the main body. And first things first, I'm just going to attach my mats and layers, because it's easier to do it when it's laid flat than when it's in its 3-dimensional form. And just like when we were cutting our little square in the side piece originally, if you're wanting to get perfect positioning on your mats and layers, then you can put down the die on top of the piece again, and the square aperture will show you exactly where your mats and layers need to go, or you can just wing it and stick it on. And what I've done is just where the ribs are closest to the central square in our little cross, I've just curved the card slightly. I did it on the edge of my desk, or you could use a bone folder just to ease the fibres of the card slightly, so that we would be able to get the nice curve on the top of our safe. So now we can just apply glue to the long flaps along the side of each side and glue it to its neighbour at a 90-degree angle. And we're just going to do that for all 4 sides, so that our safe is 3-dimensional, 4 sides and a roof. So with the 4 sides now constructed, we're going to attach the base. So we've got 2 layers of the base, so we can hide our workings, as it were. So what we're going to do is we're going to place one inside the box, put glue around the edge, and stick the little parallelogram shaped flaps down onto the base, and then put glue on top of that and place the other base on top. So we're basically sandwiching those 4 flaps in between the 2 layers of base. It means it's really robust, and also you won't be able to see the joins. And now just sticking a decorative layer to the top of my safe. This is completely unnecessary, but I just wanted it all to tie in with the colour scheme. So I did a matte layer, and then I just did a little surround for the slot. One thing I do regret, which you can learn from, is I feel I should have stuck the door on before I stuck the base on, because it would have been helpful if I would have had access to the inside to just hold the hinge as it was being glued on. But I didn't. Weirdly, I did with the first one, but not with this one. So if I were you, I would probably glue the door on first and then the base, because you can still open the door to put your hand in to help put the base on, and you can't do it the other way around. So live and learn. But basically, you apply glue to your hinge and then you stick it to the reverse of the frame so that it attaches. I just basically made it more fiddly than it needed to be by doing it the way I did it. So with the door now attached, we're just going to attach our dial to the front of the door so that we will actually be able to easily turn and open and close the door. I've used wet glue. I wouldn't recommend just using red liner tape. You could maybe put a tiny bit of red liner tape in the middle and glue around. But I think you need the wet glue, because obviously that's going to be used a lot, and you need the sticking power for the glue to permeate the card and really keep it in place. So once that's dried, you can just make sure that the door opens, closes, that the dial turns, which way you need to turn it, because obviously you need to know if you're turning it up or down in order to operate the switch. It depends whether your tab on your dial was placed at the bottom or the top, and just, yes, test your mechanisms work, and that is essentially your safe made. Now, because this is for my daughter and this is going to be a piggy bank, I felt that obviously it needed to have pigs on it. So what I've done is I've taken a pig die from my stash and I've applied that to 3 sides. And then just on the top, I'm attaching the little slots around that I cut out earlier that I mentioned back then. And that is the finishing touch to my safe. I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful, and that my random how I made it stream of consciousness wasn't too much to bear. If you did like it and you found it helpful, I would be very grateful if you could press the like button, or if you want to hear more of this, then subscribe. Also, if you want to buy anything from Tonic, I have an affiliate link in my bio. It's one of those where it doesn't cost you anything to click on it, but it just gives me a little commission to say thank you for sending people our way, and it helps me to keep buying sets and making these crafty goodies, because I don't work for Tonic. But yes, I hope you all have a wonderful day and keep crafting.